Whose advice do you trust the most?
That is a great question. The Lord. And then that's, I know that sounds like super spiritual or whatever, but what I've noticed with people, there are people that I could go to and I could like talk to them, but people tend to give you advice through the lens of their experience. And if they have not had my experience, they're saying what worked for them, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't necessarily work with me. And so I can't say there's one person. That's why I had to go with the Lord, because of course he never fails me, even when I'm questioning him, like right now, kind of like, what is happening? What did you forget that I'm in this situation, or what is going on? But like, if he tells me to trust him, I can. Steps of faith that I've taken, that he's told me to take, that I was kind of scared, I was able to trust him. When he said, I'll provide for you, or I got you, or don't worry, or whatever, he's never lied on that. And it's through the lens of just truth. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
whatever. Whereas, yeah, I can't think of one person who hasn't given me incorrect advice. So I don't know. I usually tell people to pray for me for clarity, but I don't always go to people for advice.
Oh, you're brave. I don't trust a lot of people praying for me. I don't know. I don't know what you're praying for me for. So
That's true too, I guess.
I don't know, and I don't know who you praying to. I don't want you out
Hmm.
here to be like, well, I'm gonna put it out in the universe and just no, I don't need you. No, no, thank
Yeah, that's true. But no,
you.
these are people that I know are believers. Everybody else, I'll just be like, good vibes, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
Cause yeah, I don't want you praying to the tree
right.
for for my health or something crazy like that.
Nope, I don't. I don't need that. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you for thinking about me. That I appreciate you. Yes. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space Podcast. I am your host Leah, and this week I am joined by Tamara. I've been a fan of Tamara's for a while. I think I met her maybe not physically, obviously, online during the pandemic when I was just getting my podcast off the ground. She is one of the people who really encouraged me, not just even before like sharing my information or sharing my posts and things like that. Like if I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And she's, oh, it's going great. And we had great conversation. And so I'm really happy that now I can have you on the show and we can actually have real conversation and not just through screens. Oh, well, obviously still screens, but not just through messages on Twitter and whatnot. But thank you
Right.
for being on the show.
Wow, that is such a such an intro. Thank you for having me. Also a fan of your show. I love that. I love shows where, like, I like to be entertained and stuff. So I listen to a bunch of different podcasts, but I really love the shows where people, I feel like, are in my wheelhouse of like personal growth, or just those types of conversations that I've noticed that you've had, even in the series that you do. It's intentional, and it's stuff that I could take away from it. So definitely a fan. I am loving that I am above the sea and all this stuff that's going on. Yeah.
No, thank you. I have seen you go from being a podcaster to now being a business owner
Mm-hmm.
and doing different things, trying different things, hosting different people. And it's been great to see how much growth you experience and how much you share with people in your group. In this series, we're talking about business owners and where they are and what their journey is. So for those who don't know you, would you mind introducing yourself, telling them a little bit about who you are and your business?
Sure. So I am Tamra, and I always say it like that. So people say my name right, because they often say it wrong. Outside of business owner and all that, I am a mom. I have three. Now they're all adults. My youngest just turned 18
Mm,
kids. So 18, 19, 22. I have been a podcaster for, it'll be 2 years next week, but, or I don't know when this the 12th of November. Okay. But I've been, when I really started thinking about this, I've been creating content for years. I just didn't have a
Mm,
platform for it. So I've made silly videos. I've done spoken word for over a decade. I just like to entertain. I like to encourage, worked in the social work field for over a decade, predominantly focused on workforce development. So when I came to make the decision of, okay, I want to start this company, initially it was to legally protect a brand that I'm launching.
mm,
Yeah, but I didn't want to just start a company just for a brand that just seemed like not enough for me. So I'm like, okay, if I start this company, what else can I do with this company? And so then started a consulting agency. And basically, the short version of what we do is help people reach their personal and professional goals by creating like customized plans and accountability and all that. But then what that looks like practically is there's different levels of coaching that we offer. Technically, that hasn't launched yet. There's standard operator procedure. Gosh, standard operating procedure writing. I swear I always mess up on that whenever I try to say it. I don't know why. So for companies that need SOPs, I'll write them for them. And then more recently, I just finished a business essentials curriculum. So I'm gonna in January start doing a 2.5 hour workshop where I'm teaching people basically the basics of how to have a solid foundation for their business. So financial literacy, trademarking, professionalism and networking etiquette. My goodness, it's amazing that I have a podcast as much as I be messing up on my words. um but also leveraging content and social media efficiencies. And what is the six? Oh, the six main business structures. And so basically everything that I've learned as a business owner, but then as a content creator, and kind of putting that all together in one workshop because I learned it in different ways. And this
mhm.
way, for whoever, they'll just know, oh, these are all the things that I have to consider. And then if they want coaching, that'll be like a good segue to have coaching clients. And so I just launched officially at the end of July. And it's just been really interesting how being a content creator has helped me with marketing my company because as you've watched, I didn't really used to care about branding and all that stuff for my podcast simply because it's just a creative outlet. So I'm not trying to like make my podcast a business.
Mhm.
But then once I launched a company, everything that I had learned and paid attention to about marketing and branding, I'm like, okay, but my company has to have a certain image for the
Right,
public. But then what I'm noticing is that kind of transcends to my podcast too, because now I have different templates. Because if you elevate in one area, it's going to pull up everything else. And so
right.
but I love that people have got to see the growth, as you say, because that's pretty much what I'm all about is like how I'm trying to grow and then encouraging other people to grow in the ways that may be similar.
That's super dope. What's the name of the company?
So it's called Tamara the Dawn Inc. because as you could tell, everything is all about me. um, I don't even know what made me. Oh, my website was tamarathedawn.com because I'm really just about consistency and making things easy for people. So
Right.
my Twitter and my IG handle are the same. And so then when I started my website, which really just started out for the podcasting and blogging side of things, I'm like, let's make it easy for people. So tamarathedawn.com. And then I'm like, if I'm going to start a company, I am not about to start a whole new website for something else. So we're going to go with Tamara the Dawn Inc. I did talk to my mom about that because I wasn't sure if I was gonna go Tamara Dawn Inc. or Tamara the Dawn, and she kind of was like, which there are a lot of Tamara Dawns out there. People out here stealing my whole first and middle name. You know what I'm saying? But she said that's kind of more common, but like Tamara the Dawn, that's not going to be as common. So that's how I came up with the name for my company.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In creating business, in creating a space for yourself in business, did you find it that it was a good, that it was a solid transition from, well, I am a content creator, but I also want to help other people build their brand? Did you
Mm-hmm.
find that it was an easy transition to go from content creator to business, or were you finding, I know you said there were some parts where you had to kind of tighten up, but were you finding it difficult to create that structure for yourself?
No, because so even as a podcaster, like because I worked full time when this all began, I am a person who is about templates and however I can be efficient.
Hmm.
And then I worked in the social work field. So I am just someone naturally who, if I can help you with whatever, I'm going to help you.
Mm.
So I created my company based around everything that I've been doing in my career field. So it was pretty easy with that. And then with the content creator side of that, because they kind of mesh together when you're trying to, it's all about what makes sense. So if I'm trying to establish my brand and if I'm trying to establish my company, I should say, as I am knowledgeable about these things,
Hmm.
no one is going to care just because I'm me. Not even the people who are like have known me outside of podcasting. So I have to establish who I am, establish what I know, establish that I'm knowledgeable. And so that, and I always wanted to put out like a free game series. I've talked about it on my show because I see a lot of lack of professionalism in the podcast community where, I mean, if you're networking with someone, one, it should be mutually beneficial. So
Right.
those DMs that I get where you follow me and I follow you back, and then you send me a dissertation about why I should do A, B, and C for you because it'll mean so much to you. But I am
Uh,
also a content creator. So you've put nothing in there of how it could be beneficial to me, and I don't know you, so we don't have any rapport. And so I see stuff like that. You see where people follow you to get followers and then unfollow, or
right. Right.
people will, if I, how we tweet our episode promo, and then
Right.
somebody hops on the same tweet with it, like trying to take away from the effort that I put into, so I started seeing all this stuff, and it would drive me crazy. Or when you're in retweet groups, you realize that me knowing about scheduling tweets on Twitter or Facebook business suite or stuff, not everybody knows that. And I'm all about, again, helping people. So it kind of was easy in the sense that it's how I'm wired, but also I was kind of already doing it anyway. And if you notice or pay attention to the stuff that I mainly talk about are soft skills, like
Right.
what is going to be a part of your solid foundation. Yes, I'll throw in, practical things like trademarking tips or marketing tips because people want to get that too. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, we're not going to have a solid business if we're not solid people. So
Right.
if I'm not professional, my company is not going to be professional. If I'm not on time and stuff like that, people are going to notice that. If I don't even really know what I'm talking about, people are going to notice that too. So it's kind of like
Right.
we are our companies, and it starts with us having like the soft skills. But like I said, I worked in workforce development for over a decade. So it's kind of like now I just do it for myself, and there's more money in consulting than in the social work field for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of what you have are skills that you've already built over the years.
Mhm.
Sometimes what I find is that people are worried or concerned or frustrated because they feel they need to learn new skills to, if I'm a business, I have to be your year 9.
Mhm.
I in my year 1, I have to be somebody else's year 13 in my year 1, instead of realizing you have the skills to create a business, whether you
Mhm.
cut grass, do hair, consult, or even social media management. And like, I've seen so many people who are now virtual assistants,
Mhm.
and that's what they do. They'll schedule appointments, read emails, respond back for for other small businesses.
Mhm.
And it's, you just take whatever the skills you have
Mhm.
and learn how to make the package pretty and present it.
And that's the same thing, like I used to teach resume writing to teenagers, and they haven't had jobs, but I'm like, okay, but have you babysat? Have you done yard work? Like, what have you done that those skills will be necessary in a practical job?
Mm,
And all you have to do is just write that down, because it's not about doing exactly the same things. It's what are the basically the soft skills, some hard skills too, but what skills, what knowledge do you have that can transfer to different areas? And
right.
I guess it's just how I'm wired, because, or how God created me for such a time as this, because I've always thought like that. Like, even my degree is in psychology, and so even tying that to my faith, I always can see like the universal principle that is beyond just like, I don't know, let me think of something biblical. Like love your neighbor, right? The Bible
Hmm.
says that. Well, it says that because we should be kind to each other, but it's not even so much just about the other person. It's really about us, because we were not really created to be raggedy towards people. Like, we were created for a community. And when you treat people like trash, it severs those ties. And we all have a desire to be a part of some sort of community. So that's just how my mind works, where I think of everything is deeper to me. Like, going poop is this whole revelation of how waste needs to be out of our body, and we need to remove the waste from our hearts and minds. And I don't know why I'm like that, but that's just who I am. So me starting my company, my dream, I created it based on the things that I found that I enjoy in the
Hmm.
social work field, and then grow in the areas that are not my strength. So I have a couple business mentors, so that promoting it hasn't been my favorite thing at first, like trying to market it and feeling like I'm selling myself. But when I had a conversation with one of my business mentors, she said, it's not that you're selling yourself, it's that you're explaining to the person how you are going to meet a need that they have.
Mm,
And me shifting my mindset to that, as someone who wants to help people, I'm like, oh, okay, so let me get this out here. And that's also what made me start the business essentials curriculum, and we'll launch that workshop, because it's like, there are a lot of people, I used to be this way, where I would just dive into stuff and figure it out. That's what I did with podcasting. That's generally what I do. But when it came to starting a company, it's kind of like, maybe I should have a better foundation for that than just
right,
dive in and figure it out. And then I thought, you know what? Let me put something together to help others kind of do the same thing, so they don't have to, they can skip some of this, some of the stuff that, there's always a lesson in preparation that needs to happen. But if you can
right.
fast track some of it, that's great.
As you are in this journey of being a business owner, and you've been in business for about 4 months, and or no, it's 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Oh, we're in November already. Oh my gosh, this year is just going.
I know, it's
Um,
crazy.
but you've been in business for about 3 months. What has this journey? What are like three things this journey of being in business that has taught you?
Mm, girl, you really just all not in a bad way because I'm transparent, but you all in my business because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. One of the main things is consistency
Mm,
because if I stop, there's not going to be any progress.
right,
So that's one of the main things is being consistent in I don't have to do everything in one day, but I need to be doing something every day besides my rest day that I've recently implemented to kind of like calm myself down because I was doing too much. But yeah, I should be doing something every day, checking things off my to-do list. So that's one of the first things is consistency. But then on the flip side of that is that I have to be patient. That is the lesson I am in right now is patience. Everything doesn't happen exactly when I want it to, but it happens exactly when it's supposed to. And just because it's not happening as fast as I want it to doesn't mean it's not going to happen,
right, right.
and that I need to keep doing everything that I need to do. Like being patient isn't me just sit and do nothing and well, I'm waiting on the Lord. You know what I'm saying? It's my attitude while I'm waiting for certain things to happen
Right,
as I'm doing everything that I can do. Because if I've done everything I could do and I'm still waiting, then I just know it's not the time yet. Now, if I need to do some things and I'm still waiting, then that's on me. So learning patience. And then as I just mentioned, I guess we'll say balance, but also like rest days are important.
hmm,
I get so grind. Like I went to college as an adult parent, working full time, single parent. Let's throw that out there, working full time and going to school. Then after that, transition to a season of more so grief, once
hmm,
the girl's dad passed away. So then that still meant busyness because I'm trying to navigate my grief, but then my girl's grief and just all that went with that. I went from that 2 years ago, started podcasting, and I've always treated my podcast like a job. Like my episodes come out on this day and they are going to come out on this day. My kids would know I'm recording, so they know to let me have my time to record.
hmm.
As a podcaster, we do everything. So the marketing, the promoting, the all of that, and so busy. And then I was working full time at first when I started my company. So more busyness because then I'm trying
Mm,
to grow this company. And then now that I'm in a season where I don't work a full time job anymore, I only am running my company. I'm realizing the importance of rest. I'm realizing that if I have a day where I don't touch my computer, and trust me, it's hard because I have a list of stuff that is like, I need to do this, I need to do that.
same.
But if I take that day to rest, even if I do nothing or do something with friends, family, whatever, I feel a lot better when I come back to it because my mind is rested and refreshed and not
Right,
just dragging from the same old thing. So it's interesting because the Bible talks about how you should have a rest day, and I was not on that before. And so I'm learning where these things are like there's practical things in the Bible that yes, it's the Bible, but it's like important for us, period. Like a rest day is important for us. Even with working out, there are days
right,
that I don't work out because if you just keep beating your muscles up, you're not giving it time to rebuild and like
right,
heal from all that mess. So those are kind of like the main lessons that it's not fun. It's hard for me to sit still because I feel like I'm not where I want to be. it's hard for me to wait when I've done everything I could do. And there are days that I don't, there are weeks that I'm like, I'm not even about to record an episode. These videos that I do for my company, I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I have to keep doing it because, again, I'm establishing something. So I have to have a solid foundation for what I'm establishing.
As you start to understand the journey, and a lot of people, I'll say this, a lot of people focus on the destination,
Mm-hmm.
right? They focus on, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to work when I want to work. I'm going to make buku dollars. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But from what you just said, what you had to learn, which is the consistency, the patience, and learning how to balance with rest, how, what advice are you able to give to other people who are just, who are in the in the thick of it, where they're just, because some people don't know how to rest, some people don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
be patient, and other people, when it comes to consistency, you'll get it when you get it. I'll show up when I get there. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of that is tied into the level of professionalism and accountability they have for their
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
So, my question would be, what advice do you have for those who are in that space? I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, how bad do you want it? Do you actually want to do it? But I'm asking for like more concrete advice that you would
Yeah,
be able
yeah.
to provide to other people who are just like, I need to get out of my own way.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I will say is you have to know your why. You have to know why you are wanting to do, and you have to always keep that before you, because if you don't know your why,
Mm,
you will be more so led by your emotions rather than making decisions based on the goals. So you have to be goal oriented, but like you have to know why you're wanting to do what you're doing. You have to make choices, and again, you have to keep your goals before you. So I am not a morning person at all, but and so like this, I've been like, I need to get up at 7 because I have quiet time in the morning, then work out on those days. Sometimes I have to take my daughter to work unless she finds a ride, and then I can, eat breakfast and get into my day. So I don't really have time to be sleeping till 9, 10 o'clock. And this morning, I did not want to get up. I was like, ah. And I just had to tell myself, I have to be led by my goals and not by my feelings. And that's not something that's been easy for me.
mm,
So when you hear me say that, understand this is a battle all the time with me because I'm a very emotionally led person at times. But then there's the logical side of me that kind of puts that in check, like, girl, how you gonna grow your business if you sleep? You know what I mean? How are you gonna do this if you're asleep? So that's one. I think
mm-hmm,
two, having someone that you are accountable to, like, though I am my own boss, I have business mentors that hold me accountable to some sort of thing, different goals, different whatever. I
right,
think being in community with other like-minded people, it'll inspire you and it'll encourage you when you don't feel like going. But I think at the end of the day, you they say you have to want it because like entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's not.
you
It
can say
sounds
that
cute.
again.
It sounds, but man, the grind is hard. There are long days where I get up at 7, still don't end until 11, 12 at night just to get up and do it all over again. And
Right,
so you have to want it. Sounds cliche, but you really have to let that be the driving force that no matter what, I want this and I'm not going to stop until I get there. And
right,
let me back up real quick where I talked about I was working full time and now I'm not. That was not my choice to, I wasn't planning to leave my job when I left it last, or I guess end of September, because it's November now. That wasn't my plan to leave them. My plan was to wait until I was in a better state financially with my
Hmm.
company, but they forced my hand because so resume writing is a service that I'll offer at some point, and they tried to say basically that was a conflict of interest. Started with there. It's not even a service that I'm offering yet, but the standard operating procedure, yes, I said it right without messing up. But the standard operating procedure writing services that I already am doing, even though that's not a service that they offer, and even though really there was no conflict of interest with the job readiness coaching and the resume writing, they said it was, and they said I had to cease services or I could not work here. Now, let me give you some background information on me at that company. First of all, y'all can't take credit for any of the skills that I have, because the skills that I have that I use in my company, I don't use in the role that I had there or any role that I've had there. And you can see my resume that you got when you hired me almost 3 years ago that I already had these skills. So that's number one. Number
Hmm.
two, the role that I was in when I left, I got promoted to that role faster than anyone else who's ever gotten promoted to that role. And that was the history of me being there, quickly accelerating, where they would say other people, what it would take them like 6 to 9 months to kind of get a grasp on what we were doing when I was basically a case manager, but they call it a service coordinator. I grasped that quickly because that's just me. If I'm not doing it right, I'm going to fix it until I'm doing it right, because the responsibility, one of my Gallup strengths in my top 10 is responsibility. I don't want to hear your mouth saying I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, basically. So I got my annual review shortly before all this happened, and I got 4 out of 5. They don't just give that out, like they barely want to give you a 3. You know what I'm saying? So I was a great employee leading this pilot program that was benefiting the company. My work wasn't, slacking, none of that. Not only was I able to do that, podcasting, and my company, but you want me to quit because you said so. Not because I
Right.
can't do it, but because some whatever reason you are trying to say it's a conflict of interest, but it's not. And I just happened to be in a state of transition where I'm staying at my mom's house. So I talked to her about it, talked to my dad, because not because I wanted their advice, but if I'm staying in your house, and originally I was thinking I was going to believe at this point, but if I quit my job, which is what I'm about to do, then that kind of will slow things down. So are you okay with that? You know what I mean? And so I say all that to say my why, I want to have my company be successful. I want to be able to help people, led that decision. So your decisions have to be led by the goal. If they told me to see services, how was my company going to grow?
Right.
So it's kind of like every decision you make, and sometimes it's hard because financially things are not where I want them to be, but I have a lot to be grateful for, because at least it happened when it happened to where I didn't have to consider real rent and stuff like that, because I probably would have ceased services because I'm not stupid, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
also on top of that, you have to, so yeah, know your why, but then be open to like things, yeah, patience. Things don't always happen when you want them to, but then sometimes things happen before you want them to, because I again was not planning to leave then, but I'm so glad that I did because of all that I've been able to do since then. Even as a content creator, I can promote better, I can do different events that I probably wouldn't have had time for had I still had a full-time job. I can even, though, up my self-care or my hair, you know what I'm saying? That's why I had protective styles before all the time, because I didn't have time to consider me and, dealing with this natural head of mine where she would be tripping sometimes, you know what I mean? So there's that, but at the end of the day, you have to be driven, you have to be organized, like try to have structure, templates, whatever you could do to be like efficient with your time will make it that much easier. Every podcast or company social media posts that I put out, there's some sort of template. Well, not really company because I like to just personalize those, but definitely as a content creator, I have templates. If you pay attention, every Thursday tweet looks the same. It's just the information about the show and the episode name and number will change. Everything else is the same. And I have notes on my computer, so I just copy and paste. I will take a day for my company usually and create all of my social media posts on one day and then
Mm-hmm.
schedule them all. So even though they're coming out at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm not on my phone at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to find ways of being efficient with your time so that you can get it all in. That makes it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, you really have to decide, like, I want my company to succeed. And I know that in every job that I've had, I would pour my all into their goals and their dreams and all that, and I would get promoted at every company. So how
Mm-hmm.
much more is that going to be as I pour that into my own goals and my own dreams? So if you have an opportunity and you have something that you want to do and you've done the work to start it, because not everybody does that. A lot of people talk about what they want. But if you're somebody listening who's in the thick of it,
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to get a business mentor if you don't have one. I encourage you, if you want to reach out to me, just as somebody, I'm not talking on no coaching stuff, although, them services will be available soon. But no, if you need somebody to encourage you, if you want just free game, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that will keep you going. I follow
Right.
entrepreneurs that put out content and it'll always be what I need to hear at exactly the right moment. And then it just sparks that fire in me that's like, okay, yeah, you got this. Keep going because it's hard and you don't know what will happen. You hope it'll be successful, but you really don't know. But you'll never know if you quit. Like, and it won't
Right.
be successful if you quit. And if you're not consistent, you're not building trust with the strangers that are seeing your brand, which
Right.
is why when I was sick, hey, I'm sick, I'll start posting when I'm feeling better because I have been posting every day, multiple times a day, and then I just stop. So that gives people room to be, oh, she quit, dang, you know what I mean, or whatever. So you have to be led by your goals. I know I said a lot, but it's a lot being a business owner. Like it's a lot. And be
It is.
professional. Oh my goodness. Please be professional. Like
So let's talk about professionalism for a bit because there's some things that you want to talk about what you said, but I really want to talk about professionalism
mhm,
because when you come from a more corporate style, Eurocentric, whether you're white collar, blue collar, whatever, there is a certain avatar, especially being a part of our community, that you have to play in order to be acceptable or seen as professional in that space. Um, if that weren't so, because a lot of people still think that, oh no, you can just come as you are. If that's the
mm-mm,
truth, then we wouldn't have the Crown Act.
yeah.
Get it together. Um, but how do you transition from how do you transition from being in that type of professional space to creating your own professional space?
Mhm.
Has that been a thought or has that been something that you're like, no, I just show up as me everywhere I go?
Mm, to some degree. I used to say I'm me wherever I go, but podcasting has shown me I'm not because as I'm becoming more comfortable podcasting even,
Mm-hmm.
or I won't say podcasting, but yeah, maybe more comfortable with myself as I'm getting older. It is now, yes, I'm me wherever I go. But the thing about professionalism, and I feel like there's such a stigma, it's not, first of all, show up as you are wherever you go, because as a black woman, if I do something, like if I'm passionate or if I'm super expressive, it's
Mm-hmm.
perceived differently than if someone who doesn't look like me. And that's not me just saying that, that has been my experience.
Why are you extra? Why are you aggressive? Why are you talking
Yeah.
like, yeah?
But on the flip side of that, I was raised military, so that's a whole different culture in and of itself. And
Absolutely.
then I often get told I act white. Maybe not so much now. I haven't heard it in a while, but I've had a white person, former boss, as I was talking about being in school, because I was, like I said, I was in college and this, that, and the other, say something to the effect of, well, you don't act like a black woman or something like that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And so I feel like we as black people sometimes have a stigma of, if people are doing things that are, I don't want to say good, but even displaying professionalism, I've had people tell me I talk white because I am using the English language the way that it was written. Like, I don't have to speak slang all the time. I actually have a bachelor's degree in psychology and I'm a writer. So I'm going to use an extensive vocabulary sometimes because, you know, but I've had black people, oh, why are you acting white? Why are you this? So on our side, we have to break that stigma that, I don't want to say good things equals white, but I guess that's the only way I can. Professionalism is not white, it is professionalism, and it should be. But on the flip side of that, white people, you have to stop thinking you know how all black people are and stereotyping. And then if we don't act that way, I'm not acting black. If my skin is black and I'm horseback riding, that's what black people do. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's been interesting though, because I felt like I've often been the first black woman in certain roles and jobs that I've had,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really unfortunate because that shouldn't be the case, you know what I'm saying? And I've had to, like, where I'm at now, yes, I pretty much show up wherever I'm at, but I kind of just more so arrived there because there was a point when, outside of work, even being around people, I didn't want to do too much. I didn't want to be me. Like, I didn't want to be too extra, too outwardly expressive, whatever, because I
Hmm.
didn't want to be lumped into a stereotype. And
Right,
so
right.
I'm shrinking who I am and just kind of being chill and whatever. And that's not always me. You know what I mean? And so it has been a journey that, working in the social work field though, and in the nonprofits that I've worked in, is really what helped shape and mold me to be prepared to be where I'm at now, running a company and understanding that professionalism is responsibility, accountability. You can be personable and build rapport with people and still be professional. It doesn't mean professional, yeah. It doesn't mean that I have to be all rigid and not want to laugh and not want to do all these things just because I'm being professional. So I feel like
Right.
a lot of people have the an interesting mindset on like what professionalism actually is, but I'm the type of person that I like to look up words or do a little bit of research to make sure I have an understanding of it, especially if I'm trying to teach it to people.
Right, right, right,
Like,
right.
I need to know what it is if I'm going to tell you how to do it. So it has been a journey, but in my company, I refuse to subscribe to some of these things because I know I am fully capable to do whatever I set my mind out to do. So I remember when I had my hair in the 2-strand twist not too long ago, and somebody, they didn't come right out and try to say, and it was a black person, that it wasn't professional, but they kind of alluded to it. And it's kind of like, how is my hair that's growing out of my head the way that God created me, how is that unprofessional? And I'm like, and I'll have those conversations with people, like white people, where ask questions. How does this make sense? If this is my hair right now,
Right.
the way it is with this twist out, if this is my hair, how is that not professional? If I am being professional, being accountable, being responsible, doing my work, speaking respectfully to people, being on time, and all these things, if I'm doing the actual characteristics of professionalism, but I have natural hair and it's in a twist out, and Sheba is, doing her thing, you know what I'm saying? Shiny and all that. Shout out to the new products. But if I'm doing that, or even if I'm talking like this, Sheba's doing her thing, but I'm displaying the characteristics of what professionalism actually is, how am I not being professional? And so anything that I feel like is toxic, and you can kind of tell by what I talk about on my show, unhealthy relationships, just all that stuff. I have no, I'm not going to say I have no grace for it, but it really disgusts me
Mm-hmm.
because it causes so much pain and heartache in people. It's a good thing that I know my worth and I know who I am. So
Right.
I
Right.
don't internalize a lot of that stuff, but I wasn't always there. As I could tell, you could tell I said I used to like shrink back. But now I'm just like, listen, I'm 41, and it's just something about being in my 40s that I don't really care about none of what y'all talking about. I have lived, I have lost relationships I never thought I would. And I'm not just saying like we not friends anymore. I'm talking about people that have died that I didn't think would, and friends lost. I've been through a lot. I've had to endure a lot. So if you're not going to accept me the way that I am, and trust that I'm fully capable to do whatever I'm saying I'm going to do,
Mm-hmm.
then somebody will. Because sometimes you don't want business from everybody. You don't want everybody connected to what you're doing. I had somebody offer
Yes.
to do a free logo for the brand that I'm gonna be launching, and I told them no because I just, I rather pay for it than have, and that says a lot about the aura that this person was putting out, So it you have to, though, at the end of the day, be secure in yourself, know your
Yes.
worth. You have to be able to communicate things not void of emotion, but it can't be through your emotions. So when I have these conversations with people, I am able to have well thought out, rational conversations with people with most things, remain calm, and get you to understand my side of things. Now, if I'm coming, oh, you got me messed up, da 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 da, they're not going to listen to that because it's just proving them right,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
And
Right.
so you have to be able to communicate and have those hard conversations with people. Don't just get offended. Ask people, well, why is that okay? Because some people, they'll just say anything until they're called out on it. But if you ask questions like, why is the hair that grows out of my head unprofessional? That's going to make them think like, well, dang, I never thought about it that way.
Right.
So you got to sometimes reframe things and just speak plainly, stick to the facts, don't accuse, which these are the skills you learn in just conflict resolution.
Right.
You just
Right.
apply it to these conversations. Some people need to be educated. We got to stop having this mindset that they should just know. Some people really don't know any better, and it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying write them a whole book on whatever, but in that moment, have that conversation. And that's kind of where I've landed with most things, just because I'm not going to assume that you know. But if you
Right.
didn't know, you will know by the time we're done talking. And then if you still continue to bring this up or behave in this way or whatever, then we may have to switch some things up and I might not deal with you, or, whatever.
Yeah, we can relieve you of access to me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be around me. It's an option.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for this conversation. It has been very helpful, especially talking about building that habit of discipline and not just being stuck in your feelings if you want the business, knowing your why, being consistent, knowing balance and getting your rest. Those things are very, very important as an entrepreneur. So thank you very much for speaking on those things today. This is your time to plug any and everything you have going on, from your courses to your essentials to your podcast to anything else, any way they can follow you. It's your
Okay.
time. Go ahead, go.
I'm getting at better at being more concise with this. So, as a content creator, I host a podcast, Tamara the Break It Down podcast. I also write a weekly blog called The Intimate and Funny Musings of Tamara. As I said earlier, you can see everything is all about me. That, and then in addition to that, I also run a consulting agency. So everything related to me is on my website, which is tamarathedawn.com. You can listen to episodes there. They drop every Thursday. You can read blogs on there. You can check out the services that I'm currently offering with my consulting agency. Currently, it's standard operating. Did so good earlier. Standard
You said it
operating
twice in a
procedure.
row.
I
Yay.
know. Standard operating procedure writing. So if
Yay.
you have a small business and you want your employees to do routine tasks the same way every time and they're kind of slipping in that and you don't have time to write them, hire me to write them for you. You don't have to live in the Omaha, Nebraska area. We could do everything virtually. So there is everything on my website to book your free consultation. I will soon be launching a business essentials workshop where I will basically teach people how to have a solid foundation for their business. That will launch in January. That will start off just available locally, but that will also transition to being available virtually as well. And then hopefully, if not this month, next month, I'll start launching my coaching services. And I'm actually going to start with content creator efficiencies just because that is already on point with what I'm doing with my company. And so I like to have good segues with stuff. But who knows? They might all be launched by the end of the year. You just never know because, you know, I'm just trying. I think that's about it. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. I follow back. If you're watching, my handle for both of them is at the bottom of the screen. If you're listening, if you go to tamarathedawn.com and you go to my podcast tab, both my personal Instagram and Twitter link is on there. And then if you want to follow my business, Facebook or Instagram page, if at the top of the page there's like a link for it on there. And it's also in the about me. Yeah, everything is on there. Get you some merch too. I got merchandise. It's about to be hoodie. No, it is hoodie
It
season.
is hoodie season.
Yeah,
Yes.
so there's so many different designs. Yeah, my podcast logo's on there, but there's also stuff if you're a content creator and you want to say I create dope content, there's a hoodie for that. If you were born to do great things, there's a hoodie for that. So there's a bunch of different designs to inspire and encourage people and also help them represent super dope podcaster. That's one on there too. So everything is on tamarathedawn.com. I have a live show November 12th. It is a spoken word night. So myself, another podcaster, and a really good friend of mine are going to do some poetry to celebrate my 2-year podiversary.
That's
Yep.
super dope.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm out here, y'all. I'm doing a lot of things. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. Y'all make sure y'all go visit tamarathedawn.com. Make sure that you click all the links. Make sure you get just subscribe to everything you can. Make sure, because you want to be on the lookout when she launches the rest of all the courses that she has. If you just need questions, conversation, encouragement, reach out to her. She has it all for you. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space Podcast. I've been your host, Leah. Thank you so much, Tamara, for being a guest on the show. Make sure that you follow Tamara, but also follow us at Take a Space Pod. That's Take a Space POD on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.